So, Gary Cooper's great. Love his movies. But we now have a million variations on Gary Cooper that don't look anything like the Gary Cooper you and I are talking about, and a lot of people won't even know who we're talking about.
I know they won't.
Right. But that's perhaps.
I know I'm a dinosaur.
But perhaps it illustrates the point. No, not that you're a dinosaur, but that there is no single or even set of masculine or feminine ideals. So picking role models is something that I really, truly internalized from your book, Mastery.
Yeah.
There were a lot of lonely years for me, and I won't get into the stories of just wondering, what am I going to do? I'm 13, my home was completely broken, no semblance of the reality it was before. Who are the males in my life I'm going to orient to? And fortunately for me, I assigned mentors to me, whether or not they knew it or not, that really helped me along. And I changed them up as you recommend. There wasn't one.
Yeah.
I understood there was a breaking up process, an integration process, combining and threading together different things. I truly believe that that's what's required. It doesn't have to be 100% Gary Cooper. It can be 10% Robert Greene, 10% someone else, 5% this, and creating a pie chart of sorts of, who one wishes to be in a given context. Yeah. But that takes work. It takes a bit of work and discernment, but gosh, that's powerful. And really credit goes to you because you were a mentor of mine. You didn't even realize it.
Oh, I did.
In the way that you forge and organize information. And there were others. But Mastery is where I learned to do that. And this is not a podcast, it's a sales pitch for Mastery, but gosh, it really taught me, okay, I have a graduate advisor. She was wonderful and brilliant, but she didn't know how to explain a lot of things to me. So I'd find someone else for that.
Right.
And someone else for the other thing, and someone else for the other thing, and together create a patchwork of really excellent mentors that made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
So I think there's a role for that process that you spell out in Mastery in the larger context of who to become as a person, and that includes masculine and feminine ideals.
Yeah, and it's an ongoing process throughout your life. So who you glommed onto when you were 14 or 15 will change when you're 19. I had a series of people like you're talking about. My high school English teacher who had an enormous impact on me, who taught me basically how to write. I internalized his voice. When I went to Berkeley, I had a professor there who became my kind of surrogate father at Berkeley, who I deeply admired for his level of scholarship. So he became kind of an intellectual role model. Later in life, when I finally wrote my first book, I met a man, Joost Elfers, who was a book packager who understood the business, etc. He kind of saved me. He was sort of my mentor for the next phase in my life. So on and on and on, I found people, but they have positive qualities that I admire. They're not perfect. Everyone is flawed. And so at some point, maybe you see too many of the flaws. You go on, I need somebody new in my life. But there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like you're violating any codes or hurting them. You move on to somebody else. But the sense of finding people whose qualities you admire, we don't learn from people just by following their ideas. We pick up their energy, their spirit. Now, you didn't necessarily pick up my energy or spirit from reading Mastery, although maybe you did, I don't know. But when you're interacting with that professor at Stanford or whatever, it's not just verbally, there's kind of a nonverbal communication going on. You're internalizing some of the positive qualities that you saw in them and finding these series of mentors, because I call it surrogate parents. You can't choose your father and mother, but you can choose these ideals for you. You can choose these mentors in your life. You can kind of rewrite your family history and find that father figure you never had by glomming onto this person, but it has to be the right fit. It has to be someone that you connect to emotionally and intellectually, and that has the positive qualities you wish for yourself.
Well, I'll embarrass you perhaps by saying that since I was a freshman in college, which is really when I turned my academic life around and really my life around, I've maintained the same notebook with a list of names of people that I admire and who I'm trying to emulate in some way, not in every way, certainly. And certain names have been crossed off, but most of them have survived. And certainly after reading Mastery, your name made that list. And
I hope I'm not being crossed off at some point.
No, not at all, not at all. And through reading Mastery, there were additional names I had the great misfortune of having all three of my academic advisors die: suicide, cancer, which sounds tragic. The joke in my field is you don't want me to work for you. That's what everyone says. But by being essentially scientifically orphaned, because there's a strong mentor-mentee relationship in science and progression through the career track, it forced me to go out and find other people and also to learn how to, quote unquote, mother and father myself in the context of profession. And I got a lot of help. But I can't emphasize enough how valuable that practice is. And so when one looks out on the landscape of social media options, I mean, these are literally just options of people to, we call it following, but it probably should be called something else, because following, it falls short of emulating or attempting to emulate. But I think that in the context of masculine and feminine ideals, this is so critical. But it's like the buffet of food is so enormous now, right? I mean, you've got every cuisine on the table,
and
so to speak.
We're not wired for that.
No.
And I know personally, I get very agitated and upset if I go to the market and I have to choose between 30 items and I have no idea what I want. It makes me really cranky and upset. Whereas if I know, okay, I cannot have this food, I can't have that, I'm only looking for this, okay, it's easy. It doesn't take 2 hours and waste my time. Too much choice is very detrimental to the human being, I think. And that's why, going back to what I originally said, when you have that sense of purpose about your life, about what's important, it not just infects your career, but it infects everything you do. So eating this food is going to drain me of my energy that I need to create this thing that means so much to me. And energy and feeling my brain active and alive is an incredibly important value. All right, I'm not going to eat all that sugar because it's bad for me, right? It means I'm not going to get outraged by these things on the internet because it's a waste of time. I can't do anything about it. It's just feeding on my, I forget the part of the brain that's like the amygdala or whatever, right? So no, I don't want to go there, right? And on and on and on. All these things in social media, yeah, some of it's good, some of it's interesting. I can follow Andrew Huberman's podcast and I enjoy that and I learn a lot from him. But a lot of these podcasts are useless. They're not helping me in any way. So it gives you this kind of filter and this radar to cut out those 100 different choices that drive us absolutely crazy. And I know maybe I'm a little bit, I don't know, I hate to say that, maybe I'm partially on the spectrum or something, but I can't stand too many choices. It completely drives me nuts. So I always have to kind of funnel my energy into something, to things that are productive. And having a sense of your purpose whenever you discover it in your 20s, hopefully, gives you that ability to say, these are the positive role models I want in my life. These are the mentors. And the thing about following people on social media is it's so easy. It's just a click. It doesn't mean anything. A mentor relationship takes work. It takes courage because you have to actually go up to somebody and physically ask for their help. And a lot of people write to me say, I'm afraid of asking this important, powerful person to be their mentee, right? So it involves a sense of social courage where you have to literally engage with another human being who you admire and who you think is powerful. So it's building your social skills, etc. But it's a skill you develop. You can't just follow someone. You can't just watch their lectures. You have to engage with them and you have to get over some of your fears and your anxieties in the process.
Yeah, and I might add to it, I think everything you said is absolutely true. And I think engaging in the various tools that they recommend is immensely helpful. Like I think hearing about a book is great. Reading a book is even better. Thinking about a book that you read is even better than that. And then writing down your own ideas and writing a book, well, that's the big win, right? And that's what the world, I believe that's what the universe wants from us. Not necessarily to write a book, but translate what I just said to any number of different endeavors.